your seatbelt. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Chrissie is hilarious.
Chrissie, have you ever heard of the comedian Basha K. Ali?
No, that sounds like something you yell out before you blow up a plane.
Basha K. Ali!
30 seconds remaining.
But you know what, Chrissie, to say I doubt that we'll stand up to something. I haven't been disrespectful to you at all.
I was very confused by the title, Everything Everywhere All at Once, because that's also what we call it when Ash takes off his shirt. I shouldn't be up here. I should be in school on the other side of the ocean. Hello. Welcome to another episode of the Chrissie Mayr podcast. You can listen to this podcast on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, Rumble, Rockfin, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, MySpace. No, not MySpace, although I do miss it very, very much. No stand-up gigs to promote. It feels so weird. I'm just sitting here. My next gig is going to just be at the hospital. Maybe I should sell tickets to that. You want to hold a leg? You want a stretch mark named after you? That would truly be grifting, in my opinion. But you can join the baby pool. Just Venmo $10 to my good friend Gino Bisconti. That's GENOBISCONT with the date, weight, and time. And you will be entered to win a buttload of money. And who knows, you might win the baby. Maybe I'll give the baby as a prize. We'll see. We'll see how I feel. Let me have that. I'll scroll that below real quick. Venmo, $10 to Gino Visconti with date, weight, and time. Boom. And I'm sorry for anybody who I tricked on April Fool's Day. I said I was going into labor. I had to. Can you blame me? I'm a pregnant comedian on April Fool's Day. You can't really blame me. But here we go. It's scrolling below. Baby pool. Venmo $10 to Gino Bisconti. Date, weight, and time. $5 goes to the baby. $5 goes to you, the winner. And of course, not my weight. We don't want to talk about that. The baby's weight. Cool. Amazing. Without further ado, our guest today, he's been on the show before. You may have seen him in his band, All That Remains. You may have seen him on TimCast. Maybe you go to the same gym as him and you just sort of lurk and admire him from afar. I don't know, you guys. Welcome back to the show, Phil LaBonte.
Hi. Hello, everybody. How you doing, Chrissie?
Hi.
It's good to see you again.
I'm so glad you're here. I cannot believe that you are not using a green screen right now. I cannot believe that's your actual apartment.
That's the apartment. This is the apartment. This is where I hang out in West Virginia when I am doing Tim Pool stuff. And the house in New Hampshire is, or what I like to call it, the Fortress of Solitude, because it's all tucked away up on the hill and way back in the woods.
I thought you were going to say because you don't let any women in. That's why it's the fortress.
Well, I have a tenant. I have a couple tenants that live there with me, and one of them is a woman. But she's only there because her man is there as well. So that's why I love her. It basically is the He-Man Woman Club kind of thing. So.
Okay, good. You're not worried about squatters, are you?
No, not in New Hampshire. God, no, not at all.
Yeah, the illegals that stuff haven't made their way up to New Hampshire yet. Okay.
No. I think if we get illegals in New Hampshire, it's going to be Canadians coming down, running away from the Trudeau government. And I've also said that I will harbor fugitive Canadians running from Trudeau. If you break any of Trudeau's silly laws and you need a place to hide out, I will give you sanctuary, my Canadian friends.
Yeah, what if you say the N-word after 5 p.m., you could get thrown in jail?
It's something like that. It's like if you give a cross look to a disabled trans woman, you go straight to jail.
Yeah.
No
If you
trial, no
roll
anything.
your eyes at a lesbian, you have to go straight to jail.
If you cut
God
off someone in a
forbid.
Subaru, that's it. You're doomed.
Go,
Don't cut off any Volvos.
cut off a Subaru. If you go to a non-binary person, or if you don't hold a door open for somebody with a septum ring, straight to
Yeah,
jail.
exactly. I mean, essentially, basically, it boils down to any non-traditional hair color, you have to treat them like a king or a queen because you're doomed if you don't.
Yeah. God forbid you get a pronoun wrong.
especially a
Lord.
made up one. You mispronounce "zer."
Yeah. I said sure instead of sir.
Yeah, right. That's funny.
Oh my
So,
God.
but yeah,
Right.
so
Because
New Hampshire's great. You know.
New Hampshire's supposed to be like a libertarian oasis, is it not?
Yeah, it's where I mean, there is many a fedora in New Hampshire. I'm sure. It's where the Free State Project is. It's where the Free State Project is. There's a lot of anarchists up there. I fit in very well, as kind of a don't really fit in anywhere kind of guy. So yeah, I mean, I like it there. It's close to. I grew up in Massachusetts. I'm from Massachusetts. The band is from Massachusetts. Our studio's still there. My family's still there. Our guitar player Mike's family's there. Mike is still there. It's like we're still kind of based in Western Mass, and it's only an hour for me to get from New Hampshire or my place in New Hampshire down to where my mom is and where my brother or my sister and family and stuff are down there. So it's super convenient. It's a super easy ride to go from New Hampshire to the Hartford airport. So that's a big thing too. So,
Okay.
but
So
I like it.
you're basically splitting your time between Massachusetts, New Hampshire, West Virginia, basically.
Yeah. And last year I did a lot of trips to California because our producer's out there. So I'd fly out there like 5 times last year for a week or so.
Wow. See, it's
But
interesting.
I mean,
I'm
it's
glad
busy, you
that
know?
yeah, I'm glad that comedy has also brought me out to California because if I wasn't doing comedy, I could see myself just being like, fuck it, I'm not even gonna attempt to go see what's happening in California, based on just the
Yeah.
last 4 years, what you hear. But San Diego was fun. I've been to
Awesome.
LA. Yeah, it's good to still because
Mhm,
there's people who completely write off New York where I live.
mhm.
And it's not all that bad. If you still have
Are
never
you on
been to
Long
New
Island?
York, I'm from Long Island. I'm in Westchester now,
Okay, yeah.
but I still have the strong island. Like if obviously not now because I can't drink, but when I have a few drinks in me, the Long Island it just comes
Comes
rushing
out.
back.
Yeah. My manager's from Long Island and our new drummer is also from Long Island. I can't announce him yet, but
Ooh,
he's from Long Island. So
ooh, you just got a
Mhm.
new drummer.
Well, yeah, that's about all I can say right now. But yeah,
Okay,
yes. New
how
drummer
even
he played on this record and stuff. So yes, the record
right?
being
And you
released.
have a new record out. Tell me about the
Not
new
yet.
record.
We're
Okay,
gonna release it. It'll probably be released this summer. The first bit of music will come as soon as we can announce the tour that we're doing this summer. We're supporting a big band on a big package, but because they're the headliners, you got to let the headliners run the show. So I can't announce anything. So we're just gonna do everything in one big package. We're gonna go ahead and when they announce, we're gonna put a video out because the video is almost done. New song, new single, blah blah blah, a whole bunch of that stuff. So that all happen at the same time. But we're waiting on the tour that we're going to be doing to get their stuff ready and make sure that their ducks are in a row, so that way we can all put it all out at the same time and have the impact the way that the headliners are looking for. So
did you hear that, ladies? He said one big package. I mean, that doesn't sell you
it's a large
alone.
package. It's a large package.
How much
It
longer do
is.
you think you'll have to wait to announce?
I think that it'll be within the next 2 or 3 weeks, but I'm not positive. It might be a little bit longer. If I understand, the last I heard, they were still hammering out the details of the routing, which is where each show is going to be and how the tour gets snaked through the country and stuff. But again, it's their discretion. So I'm just waiting. I think it should be, like I said, I think it should be a couple, maybe 3 weeks. But again, I'm waiting on them. So, but it's coming soon.
And you can't really.
And
You
we'll probably
can you talk about what cities or not yet?
no. It'll be like big cities. Like if you're it'll be like somewhere around New York City, somewhere around DC, somewhere around Dallas, somewhere around LA, there'll probably be a couple shows in Southern California. There'll be a Northern California show. So the regions will be covered, but I don't know the actual locations now.
Okay. If you close your eyes and listen to Phil talk, if you slightly adjust your tone, you could very easily sound like George Carlin. Do you get that a lot?
Could I sound like George Carlin?
You could.
Maybe.
You could very easily do a George Carlin impression.
Yeah,
maybe you have that little bit of
maybe I could. Maybe I could. Cocksucker, motherfucker.
One big club, and you're
it's
not
one
in
big
it.
club, and you're not in it. Yeah. It's one big club. Get the fuck out of here. Not you. Maybe a little bit. He was great though. He was brilliant.
He was the best. Before we were recording, yes, I was making fun of your Fortress of Solitude there because it looks so neat and tidy, and it could be a fake background, almost like a woman or a gay lives there. But I'm very impressed that this is your home.
I did. It is my place. I did clean up, to be honest with you. I had a bunch of bullshit on the what's it called, coffee table there. I had to clean that up, and I did even hit it with the old Windex. But otherwise, it's mostly like this all the time. I did actually pay someone to do the decorations though. So I was like, just make it look decent. I want to look like an adult in case I have to, do some kind of stream. Literally, in case I did like a podcast or a stream, I was like, if I do something from here, I don't want it to look like I'm a teenager. I'm a grown man.
It's worth it. It just takes a few tweaks. It's like, okay, you can have things hanging up, but they have to be in a frame. No visible punch holes exposed in the walls.
No matter how mad you were at your girlfriend last night.
Yeah. Yeah, just basically, if you were in a frat house at any point, just the opposite of that.
Exactly.
Yeah, very impressed.
I hired a very sweet older woman to come in and make it look nice. I was like, please.
Was it your
make
mom?
sure that I don't. No, it wasn't. No, it was someone that she was very nice. She's a local here though. So.
Oh, that's good. I love that. You're like, fine. She was an escort, okay?
No. No, we'd have to go all the way to Washington for that.
Nice older lady. Before we went live, I was explaining to Phil, like, I've noticed like one of our dogs is hanging around me more since being pregnant, and I was also saying like, because I did the April Fool's thing a couple days ago. I told people
which got me
was going into labor, and it was at around 10 p.m. and I didn't realize like you're technically not supposed to continue to fool people past 12 noon or 2 p.m. in the afternoon.
Oh, really?
Apparently
there's a protocol.
There's a full protocol.
No,
so I was too late.
No.
But I think very few people know about this rule, and I think people are fooling each other up until 11:59 p.m.
If they can. And the thing is,
now
on Twitter, it never goes away unless you delete it.
I'm the girl that cried birth, and now I've instantly felt horrible because everybody, there's so much care and concern, and like, you got this, good luck, and now they're not going to care at all when the time really comes.
Yeah. I said break,
Chrissy.
I gave the old break a water, and I like a little play on break a leg, and I thought I was clever and everything, and I was like, now you're like, it was a joke. I'm like, damn.
Break a water. That's always what I threaten. Anyone who upsets me, I'm going to break my water over their foot.
Ruin your shoes.
Yeah.
But
one of the dogs has been hanging around me a lot, and I've been researching it. And some dogs view I'm always curious, like, to what degree can they pick up on your pregnancy? Like, do they know? Do they care? Do you smell different? And actually, some dogs see you as disabled. They see you as they notice that you're slower, you're grunting, you're having trouble putting your shoes on and whatnot. They're like, something's wrong with this person. I'm going to stick by them.
They're
normally right next to me right now because she
kind of spastic and crazy.
Yeah, be like, I noticed none of your pants fit. Something's going on. You seem upset.
That's hilarious. And they're just and you
Beginning.
think your dog knows that you're or thinks that you're broken.
My dog has 100% been treating me like I'm disabled. Yeah. Like they make sure I'm alive every morning. They come in, like lick my face, but like extra now. Like you didn't
It,
die from whatever's happening with your body, right? Yeah.
that's great. My dog. I mean, I'm not pregnant, but my dog. I don't imagine that my dog would. I'd have to find out. You know, like she doesn't really move unless it's for treats because she's so old now.
Oh, well,
Mhm.
for a few months, just pretend nothing fits you and be slower and like,
Ugh, and complain that it's cold, and
yell,
then complain that
yeah,
it's hot.
yell every time you have to get up or sit down.
Ah!
Ah! It's
Awesome.
crazy. Every time I'm on the floor sometimes doing things, working on my whiteboard or tidying up or something. You can't just get up from the floor like a normal person. You have to get up like a toddler, which means you have to spin your
Roll over
legs
onto
around.
your.
Yeah, you have to spin your legs around and you have to make sure you get up on your hands and knees like a little kid would have to. You can't just like your core strength is shot. Like there's no doing anything without the use of your hands or like you're grabbing on things. Like I'm using the poles in bathrooms like an old person.
Those are handy though, honestly. There are times where you just feels all right to grab onto them.
You gotta grab onto something. Oh my god, we got super chats already. Thank you, LP Phil. Thoughts on Ronnie Radke falling in reverse?
He's awesome. I wish that he tweeted more. He's not. He kind of takes a break for a while. He hasn't been on for a while. He's
Who is he?
hilarious. So he's the singer of this band called Falling in Reverse. And he's been around for a while. He's been in other bands. Falling in Reverse has been around for a while too. We toured with him. I think it was like 2018. But in 2020, I think it was, they put out like two songs that just, or maybe it was 2021, but they put out two songs that just went and took the world by storm. And they went from playing like 1,000-seat venues to playing like 10 to 15,000 seat venues, and it's on two songs. So it's like,
Wow.
and one of the songs is like, it's one of the few really creative songs that I've heard in a long time. So there's not like really a normal chorus. So
Wow.
it's really, you should check them out. Like check out their stuff, like Popular Monsters, I think is what it's called. Or Monster is the name of the song. I don't remember the exact name of the song, but if you go ahead and you Google like, Ronnie Radke, you'll see those. Hold on. Hey.
Oh, let's see your dog.
No, I have to leave her in the kennel while I'm doing this. She's a pain in the butt.
Oh no, what kind of dog do you have?
She's a little pit bull. She's a little blue pitty. She's old and she's broken,
How do
so
you
she can only
feel
mess around.
about the hate speech and the stereotypes surrounding pit bulls?
I mean, look, if you have any kind of dog at all, it is your responsibility to take care of that dog and make sure the dog doesn't hurt any humans. Right off the bat, anytime you're entering into this conversation, people love to go ahead and get all emotional about it. You are the human being. If you are not in control of your dog, you have no business having that dog. Okay, so there's that right off the bat. You are also going to keep your dog safe if you have your dog under your control. That's why my dog is in the kennel now. She's kennel trained. She goes to the kennel by herself, like all the time. That's where she feels safe. She loves it in there. And when I leave the house, she goes in the kennel because I don't want her getting in the trash. I don't want her to do something, bump something, climb on something where she gets hurt. She's safest in there, right? Like, because things can happen. So I'm a big believer in kennels. I'm a big believer in making sure you're taking care of your dog and you're responsible as a human.
Kennel basically just like a bigger cage.
Yeah, it's a big cage. I mean, it's probably 2 foot tall by 2 foot wide, and I think it's 36. I mean, it's big. Like she can turn around and there's plenty of room for her to move and stuff. It just makes sure that she doesn't get into anything when I'm gone. So, when it comes to taking care of a dog, it's your responsibility. You don't get to just be like, oh, well, it's not my fault, or it was a good dog because the dog got away and, whether it attacked someone or whatever, That's the person's responsibility. It's not the dog's fault per se. It's the person's fault because they weren't taking care of their dog or they didn't have control of that dog. Anything at all that can hurt someone else that you're responsible for, if someone else gets hurt, you're responsible.
It's like having a big penis. You gotta
yeah. You seriously, if you hit someone, yeah, it's like if you're really beautiful, it's your responsibility if you break someone's heart just by walking by them. If you got a gun, if you've got guns, it's your responsibility. If you actually are shooting your gun, not to hit innocent people or shoot someone's car, you're responsible for that. Like, you are responsible. So the whole argument surrounding dogs and dog breeds and stuff like that, in my opinion, misses the point, which is the human being failed their responsibility. And if we focus more on responsibility of people and kind of actually start holding people accountable for actual responsibility for things more than just worrying about like what people said, I think that we'd have better results in society. So there's my little soapbox.
Do you believe that you have to be even more responsible? Like when you own a pit bull, you got to be on your game a bit more in terms of owner responsibility?
Yes, because the dog's strong. The dogs have their own will. So you do have to be more. You have to have a certain, again, it's again, I'll look at it like a gun again. Like if you are going to shoot a gun, you can't have a gun that you can't control. It's like, and that means that you have to go to a safe place and train with it enough. So that way you can operate it properly, safely all the time. And I say safely because a gun is inherently dangerous and stuff. So it has to be under control. And the same thing goes for, any kind of dog that's an aggressive dog or whatever, like a dog, like a Malinois. If you have a Belgian Malinois and you don't give that thing the exercise and the attention that it needs, it's going to tear your apartment apart, your house apart. It might get out and it might hurt someone because they're just spastic, crazy dogs, right? Like if you mistreat a German Shepherd can attack people. A Rottweiler can attack people. So there are dogs that are more aggressive, and that means that means the responsibility of the person, or that changes what it means to be responsible for the dog. So you have to make sure that the dog is leashed, and you have to do extra to make sure that it's taken care of properly, so that way no one gets hurt.
It's like you had a German Shepherd and you didn't look after him enough. He just sort of starts. You know how some dogs are herding dogs? I don't know if a German Shepherd is a herding dog or not, but it'd be funny if left to their own devices, a German Shepherd is just going to start rounding up Jews, just herding hey.
No, stop. There. Yeah, we disavow. Stop. No, we can't do that.
No, bad, Adolf, bad. No, these are the good kinds.
Jesus Christ, Chrissie.
Okay. I have to remember that for later.
But it's in their blood, right? It's in their blood.
A killer. I'm sorry, he can't help himself. He just is very passionate.
Chihuahuas actually are killers. They're just too small to do anything about it.
Yeah. I have never seen a good-tempered Chihuahua. Like the smaller dogs usually have sometimes short man syndrome because they feel like they have something to prove. Yes, exactly. The German Shepherds are just following orders. You can't blame them. Oh yeah, maybe they are herders. Okay, the chat is correcting me that the German Shepherds do like to herd. Well, shoot, maybe that's what they were bred to do. I'll have to look into that on my own time. So my dog thinks I'm disabled. It's good times. Jared Hebert, Phil, any other based rockers? Jesse Hughes got canceled after he spoke out against the terrorists that massacred the Eagles of Death metal audience in Paris, one of the few vocal ones. I haven't heard of Jesse Hughes. Did you mute yourself? Oh no. Phil, I think you muted yourself. Or did I mute you? I would never do such a thing. Maybe you're offended by my German Shepherd comment. Uh-oh. All right, we want to try leaving and coming back? Or maybe you get muted automatically if you make enough jokes. Okay. Bill's gonna leave and come back. But in the meantime, Thank you for the yellow boy, Jared Hebert. Do 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 do. I have not heard of Jesse Hughes. Let me look him up. You know, I wish that I was Jesse Hughes. Let's see. He is the frontman of Eagles of Death Metal. Interesting. He was featured in the book Sex Tips from Rock Stars. He looks like he has not washed his hair in this Wikipedia photo. Bang, bang, bang. Audio. Audio malfunction from both CIA. Okay, that my last big package joke. It is getting too heavy. Imagine getting canceled for not supporting terrorism. Yep. Was Phil too base for YouTube? Yes, Phil, try unplugging and plugging in the big package. Always good advice. Imagine I just muted him the whole time. No, I did not. You know, maybe it was our conversation about chihuahuas. Okay, I did not mute him. No. You have 3 good-tempered chihuahuas, Courtney? Well, that just speaks to, you know, your talent as an owner, and you're probably very sweet to them. But I used to dog sit for 2 chihuahuas, and they were absolute savages. One was very protective over the remote for some reason, and one was completely so scared of the remote. So I'd have one grabbing my hand when I would, because I used to go over and dog sit. This couple lived in kind of 42nd and 8th Avenue in the city, and I'd go for the remote. One would bark at me, and then I would hold the remote close to the other one's face, and it would be like, "Get that away from me!" It was so scared. I was like, I feel like the owner probably hits them with the remote. What other reason can I think of for them being scared? Filthy thinks my next cancellation of 2024 will be around German Shepherds. I'm actually really surprised I haven't heard that joke before. They are shepherds. Oh my God, imagine. All right, here goes my Google search. Were German Shepherds bred to herd Jews? They're a working breed. Okay, Adolf Hitler had a German Shepherd. I guess this will come as a shock to nobody. Yeah, wow. Okay. Oh, there he goes. Okay, he's back.
Hi. You got me?
Hey. Okay.
You can hear me?
I can hear you. Can you
Okay,
hear me?
good. All right. I don't know what happened.
Oh, I don't know, maybe.
Oh, any other based rock stars? So Jesse's the singer of Eagles of Death Metal, and I don't know why people were so upset with him for I don't know what it was that he said exactly. It was critical of Islam or at least critical of the terrorist. Possibly spilled over into critical of Islam, and that's probably why he got crap. And at the time it was, at the time everybody was super sensitive, but I mean, again, the guy was just in the Bataclan attack. So I don't know why he should have been canceled. I'm not, but again, I'm not 100% sure what he said. As for bass, there are people that are starting to get to the point that are like, yo, this is not what we signed up for. Specifically people that are resistant to the LGBTQ stuff or resistant to the way that people are responding to the October 7th attack in Israel. Those 2 things are the things that have kind of made made a significant number of people kind of go, wait, hold on a second. I don't know if I'm down with this. And also the crime wave going on in America. That's another thing where people are just like, wait, hold on. So you will see more and more people start to say, hold on, I think that it's time that we push back on the far left's agenda. And if that means that there will be more people in the music industry speaking out, great. I'm going to keep doing me. And that's kind of what I do. So,
And I know
you know.
5 Times August, I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's always been outspoken, certainly during the down times. I
Yep.
wonder if you see this, if there's a parallel with comedy. I was very anti performing at places that mandated the vaccine. Did you see a lot of that in the music industry? And also, do you feel like since more time, and there's this kind of there's a lot of viral clips of Bill Maher going around, but Bill Maher is increasingly saying things that were common sense to those of us that in the center or center right, things a lot of us have been saying for literally 4 years, just basic common sense truths about lockdowns and the jabs and everything, but he's now saying it because I think he doesn't want to hemorrhage any more viewers. And the left is like, oh my God, wow, Bill Maher, you're saying what needs to be said. And so many of us are like, we've been saying this the whole fucking time. Like, what do
Look,
you
that's something
feel
that
like that? Like it's almost been made safer in the music industry for people to say stuff that we weren't allowed to say a couple years ago.
100. I do think so. 100%. And I think that we need people like Bill Maher to say these things. Not because I have any kind of preference for Bill Maher or any kind of specifically fond opinion of Bill Maher. He's 6 of one, half dozen of the other for me. He's not particularly funny, but he does, entertain people. So a lot of people watch him. So I think it's good that people listen to him, and I think it's good that he's saying these things. But that's gonna happen because the reason things have gotten to this point is because there has been, at least as far as I can tell, there has been 20 or more years of the people that are entertainers constantly lampooning the right. So the Daily Show was almost exclusively making fun of people on the right for however long it was on. And then Colbert was doing it. And then Daily Show became really, really progressive. But what's happened is you've kind of programmed people to have a preconception that if it comes from the right, or if it's an idea that comes from the right, then it is to be mocked because of where it came from. It's a whole lot of kill the messenger, right? People don't listen to the message. It's who's bringing it. So if it's anybody on the right or Republicans, because of all the discrediting and invalidating their perspective, they're just kind of lampooned automatically. So you need people that are in the good graces, quote unquote, on the left or with the center, I guess, really the center left or whatever. You need those people to speak up, saying things that people on the right have been saying. So that way you can have the normie that doesn't really pay attention to politics or doesn't pay attention to this kind of stuff where it doesn't affect them. They just go to work and do their thing. And, they consume maybe 35 minutes worth of political content in a month, or not in a month, but like in a week. They know just enough to feel like they can actually vote, in an informed way, even though they don't really pay attention. Those people have to be brought back to reality, back to being able to be like, okay, hold on, free speech actually is important. We need people that believe that to vote the way that they believe it. And so for that end alone, it's good to have people like Bill Maher, or people that you would consider formerly opposed to you politically, to see them saying things that you agree with. People like Anna Kasparian. She's had a big awakening recently, and she's getting a lot of heat from the left. Who else there? Brianna Wu, who she was really involved with the first Gamergate, and she was very progressive, and she has kind of seen the light and is like, hold on a second, this kind of stuff is not helping us. She even put up a post on her Twitter account that was mocking the Pride Progressive flag, because it was all just rainbows and blah blah blah, and she put up a post mocking it, and I wasn't even sure that she actually was serious. I was like, this has got to be an April Fool's joke. She can't really be. I couldn't believe that Brianna was doing it. So anyone that'll come over to a reasonable perspective and leave the ideological left, I think we should welcome personally.
Yeah, wow, I didn't realize this about Anna Kasparian.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, it's good. Yeah, you know what? Better late than never.
Absolutely. Because that's what we need to, because it's if voting is going to be the solution, that's the way that you're going to do it, by getting people that disagree with you to come over to your side and say, okay, look, maybe I don't like all the things these guys say, but the things that the other guy's saying are too far now. So I'm going to vote for these people that are more sane.
Makes sense. And Anima Chains, your music has helped me through some rough times in the past, brother. Thank you. Oh,
Thank you, man. I appreciate it, dude. Thank you for telling me.
thanks for the super chat.
Thanks
See,
for
doesn't
listening
that
too.
warm the cockles of your big package, Phil?
It does. It does. It warms the cockles and everything below the cockles. Clint Torres, man. I'll go to the gym
Clint,
later.
Clint. Howdy, people. Phil, don't forget the thing. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah. He's telling me that I should go to the gym.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That
I
doesn't sound
promise
gay
you
at
he
all.
is. He's
No, go to
definitely
the
saying
gym.
you should go to the gym.
Hawk Smash. What is the better treat, cake or ice cream?
Hawk ice
Oh,
cream. Ice cream.
yeah, ice
Ice
cream.
cream, homie. I love Hawk. He's
I
great. You
think
should Hawk
I think
actually has
bad ice cream is
Good.
better than bad cake typically.
Yeah, it is. I think so. It's hard to make. It's bad ice cream is hard to find, to be honest with you.
Right, it has to be freezer burned, basically.
That's right. Seriously. You should follow Hawk Smash. He's on Twitch and he's also on Twitter. Follow
Ooh,
him. He does Destiny content. If you're a video game person, he does Destiny content. So he's
okay.
cool. Nice guy.
Ooh, lover of green. Thank you for the super chat. A coworker tried to coerce my workplace into wearing Fauci napkins again. I politely told him to take a hike. Like, dude, the coof has been over since 2022. The N95 crowd just can't take the L. It is amazing how easily swayed and manipulated they seem to be.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that there are still people that want to wear the masks. There was a time where I was like, it'd be cool if people wore masks like when they're sick, like at the very beginning of COVID, before it became a thing, before people started to pick sides about it. I was like, because in Japan, I've been to Japan a couple times for the band and play shows and stuff, and I was like,
The
in
Asians
Japan and
love
stuff.
their masks. Yeah.
What?
Don't the Asians love the masks? They're into mask
Yeah, they
culture.
do. Yeah, and whenever they got a sniffle, they put them on because they don't want to, like, if they're sneezing or coughing, they don't want to get it on other people, and that makes sense. And I thought that was cool. And then, like, as soon as it's turned into like where people were like butting heads about masks, I was like, that ain't gonna happen in America ever. So I think people that are still wearing them are still about the coof people. And look, man, if you want to wear a mask, do you? But that whole like trying to get a whole workplace to, nah.
No, you can't force it on other people.
Nope.
Oh my god, this is crazy.
Oh.
Thank you, Nexus Slayer. You're gonna get a pink. Thank you, Nexus Slayer. I split with a girlfriend because I found out she was a commie. Oh my god, how long were you guys dating? I know that's bad. I'm not an expert. Phil, why is wanting the government to provide basic foods to compete with grocery stores a bad thing? Probably because they have no profit incentive.
Among other things, the government, when it's picking winners and losers, the quality of services goes down. You see that a lot. You see a lot of bureaucracy involved in it. The government right now, the government has its hands in so many things that there is a literal army of people and an army of lawyers that just do paperwork, right? Like, so if you add more things like the logistics of a grocery store to the already federal government, like the amount of money the government's going to have to print just to fund that, it's ridiculous. In fact, I think it was just last week or something, they just found out or did the calculation where the amount of money that we're paying on interest on our debt is more than the Pentagon spends or something like that. It's some tremendously ridiculous amount of money, trillions of dollars. And we can't, and the biggest driver of our debt is unfunded liabilities. And everybody in politics is afraid to touch that. So like something's got to get fixed. And ain't nobody got the balls to do it. The last thing you want to do is add a grocery bill to that. That's the biggest reason not to do like healthcare for the whole country, like single payer and stuff, is because right now Medicare and Medicaid are driving the unfunded liabilities. And then if you add the rest of the country on, you can't pay for it. It'll destroy the dollar. And destroying the dollar is a real thing.
What's an example of an unfunded liability?
Oh, well, that's stuff like Medicare and Medicaid. So the
Okay.
medical services that are provided for by, because you're over 65, those things. And they're not everybody that gets them, but there's enough people that do get services provided by the government where it's like, wow, that's a big bill, right? A lot of money. And because of the way that the government borrows money to fund things, that's a lot of interest. And the interest rate now is really, really high, and they're trying to get it under control. It's not as high as it was last year or 2 years ago, but it is still high, and that affects the debt. The higher the interest rate, the more the debt it costs to service the more it costs to service the debt. And so, at some point, other countries will say the United States is not the safe bet that it would be, or it used to be. And I don't know when that is, and I don't have any idea or any way to predict it. But that's essentially the argument that people that worry about the dollar, right? If you're worried about the solvency of the dollar, you hear people talking about that. The argument they're making is at some point, people aren't going to want to borrow money or they're not going to want to lend us money, because that's all the debt is. They don't want to buy the government's treasury bonds anymore because they're not valuable, because they don't think the government will ever pay them back, or they don't think the U.S. government will last long enough for the treasury bill to come to maturity, or whatever the financial instrument is, or whatever the decision they're making. It's based on the fact that they don't believe the government's going to pay their bills. And that can happen. You see BRICS and other countries, the BRICS nations, which are the countries that are trying to get away from the dollar. They're trying to value oil in something other than dollars. And that's a big, real thing. So these are actual tangible problems.
What is that? Brazil, Russia, India, China, South America?
I have to be honest with you, I
Saudi
don't know,
Arabia?
but maybe Brazil is in there. Russia's in there, and Russia's such a big producer of oil and natural gas. Like they do a lot of it. So when they have a policy change, it affects the global market strongly.
Interesting. Oh, Will I Am, thanks for the super chat. Remember, the left lane is for crime.
The left lane is for crime.
What's that reference to?
The left lane on the highway is not for you to just travel in. It is not for you to just hang out in. It is for you to break the law and go fast. It is for crime. It is for it's for moving violations to get around the person in front of you. But don't just, like, people that just sit in the left lane going like 65, 70, you're like, all right, I hate you. Now I hate all of your descendants too. Just go faster.
Yeah,
that's right. Yes.
You gotta have a plan. You can't just
the left lane is for crime. You can't just hang there. You can't just go 65. You have to be breaking the law if you're in there.
Rock on, Phil, my fave IRL member. Aww.
Cheers. Thank you, Will.i.am. I appreciate it, man.
Okay, I want to say who's your favorite IRL guest lately, and I want to know your least favorite, but maybe that's not a diplomatic question.
Oh, well, my least favorite was Jackson Hinkle. Or maybe my least favorite was either Jackson Hinkle or it was Destiny. Because, not that I was on with Destiny, but Destiny and I had some words on the internet post his thing. But or it was Jackson Hinkle, which again wasn't really on with him, but we had some words post his appearance and stuff. So that was those are my least favorites.
Were they?
Oh, well, it's on Twitter. I don't do any, I don't worry about hiding stuff or whatever. I'm not everything for me is pretty much on blast. Anything embarrassing that I've ever said, I don't go back and delete stuff. So if you go and look at my Twitter account, there's all of the embarrassing drunk shit I said 10 years ago when I used to drink and when I used to get shithoused and get on Twitter and just let it rip back in 2008 or 2009, 2010, when Twitter was the Wild West still. It's all still there. So.
Okay, that's good.
And
so,
and then my favorite,
your favorite, yeah.
I had a really good time when Thomas Massey was on. He's super cool. It was fun to hang out. It's always fun to hang out with Alex Jones because he's crazy. So yeah, it's either Thomas Massey, either an actual serious politician, or crazy Alex Jones because he's awesome and crazy.
What does Alex drink or do before coming on the show? What does he like to drink?
He's kind of just normal. He's him, and I think he drinks like Jack and Coke or something like that. Is what I think he usually drinks. But I mean, he's very similar on the show to when he's not on the show. At least, when you're hanging out with him talking, he might be a little quieter. He's not quite as loud and boisterous, but he'll still talk about the same stuff, and he'll still say the same things. Like he believes it. He's
He's
Alex
not
Jones
just
is Alex
putting
Jones.
it on.
Yeah, it ain't a joke.
What did Massey drink?
Massey's the thing that I like about Massey, he's an MIT guy, so he's super smart. He has built this huge, his place in Kentucky, I think it is. But his place, he's put up videos of stuff that he's built. He took an old Tesla engine or Tesla battery, and he turned that into his basically his power wall to run his house, and his whole house is run off a Tesla battery, and it gets charged by the solar panels. And he's totally all homesteaded up with the self-sufficiency stuff, and that's stuff that I aspire to do someday. So just that stuff alone is super cool. But he's also a really constitutional, libertarian Republican kind of dude, the kind of Republican like Ron Paul was, or the libertarian like Ron Paul was, or Justin Amash kind of, or it's very similar to the kind of stuff that Dave Smith would be behind, or who else? Yeah, Rand Paul. Those guys are the dudes that I am inspired by politically, because they're
what did he drink?
They're pretty. I don't think that he was drinking. I don't remember what he was drinking. I don't think he was drinking. So I think it was probably just water. Most of the time it's just water. Very rarely do we get partiers on. Yeah. It's only Lauren Southern. Lauren Southern comes on and gets boozy. So
really? I remember my friend Mike Carlo was on the show recently. I just said, hey, my only advice was don't get drunk. And that's my advice to anybody who does any show that's kind of a big deal. I'll be look,
it's true.
Do not get, because you're anxious before, and you're your normal solution to that is drink. And it's I was have one, then stop, and then then maybe sip one throughout the show.
Especially, and you and I, we're probably used to that kind of thing because of the world that we come from. You as a performer and a comic, you're in bars and in comedy clubs and stuff. Me being a dude in a band, I'm played in theaters and bars and stuff like that. So it's one thing that happens a lot is people that go to a normal job where they can't work, or they can't drink at work, they'll show up to the party or whatever, and they'll be in a spot where they can have a couple drinks or whatever, and so they're oh, it's time to go, and they have 3 drinks.
That's why Christmas parties are so messy, because people go hog wild. They go, all right, and then they finally tell the receptionist how they feel, and it's a whole mess. And
HR is busy for the next month.
Yes.
So yeah, but that's happened more times than I count. Someone shows up and they show up at 2 or 3, and I'm what are you doing here? And they're we're gonna come and hang out. I'm bro, the show ain't for 6 hours or whatever. And then they're hammered by 5 or 6. The doors aren't even open. There's the front lounge, assed out on the
and you don't have to say who, but worst behavior, I guess maybe you're describing it, show up very, very early and then get bombed.
Just showing up and getting bombed is the bad behavior. And it's always friends that you love dearly, right? It's because they wouldn't get on the bus if you didn't love them. You know what I mean? They wouldn't be backstage if they weren't people that you really care about and stuff. And so it's these are people either that you care about, or you're people that you're on tour with really care about. So you don't want to be a jerk. You want to be nice. And then next thing you know, they're their face is on the couch and they're talking about their ex-wife, and then the little drools come, they're going to puke or whatever. It's oh, buddy, you got to chill out. But that happens all the time. And same thing can happen. People go on to a podcast. It's or they go to a social event where they actually are going to be filmed or whatever. And it's oh, well, I'm hanging out, forget the cameras are on, hanging out, drinking. Next thing you know, they say something that is out of the pocket or whatever, and they ruin their life because they're normies.
I was gonna say, what are some faux pas, things, you don't have to say who's guilty of them, but from your time on TimCast, kind of things that you go, ugh,
Well, what the thing is with Tim's show, the only time that happens, or the only thing that makes me do that, is when someone says something that has to get the show taken off. So if someone makes an allusion to violence or something, they say something about, whatever, because it's political and it gets heated, people will make, certain jokes that we can make on Twitter, you know, about like arborism, like arborist jokes, if you know what I mean.
Okay. Yes,
But like
wood
you don't want
chipper
to make.
joke
Yeah,
or like
that's exactly what. That's see. I don't want to go ahead and say it here because I'm used to not
yeah.
saying it. You know, but like, yeah, it'll be like, you know, or helicopter jokes. You know, commies don't fly or whatever kind of thing, and then that has to go. You can't have that on YouTube. You can't
Oh
make those jokes.
man.
You can't say, because it's not like where, like in this context right here, we're talking about it, right? Whereas on Tim's show, they invariably come out as a, well, I'm frustrated with those people, so, and it's like, whoa, buddy, now we got to dump it, now we got to stop. And so those are always like the worst things that get said on Tim. Otherwise, it's like, I mean, we can get, you know, there's not really topics that we can't or don't cover, or we can't or won't talk about. I mean, even like, as much as like that people love to like scream about Israel, it's like we have people from the Gray Zone on. We've had them on multiple times to talk about Israel. So like people will say, oh, you don't talk about Israel. And it's like, dude, we have like some of the most critical of Israel critics on, you know, but the really thing, what they want is they want Nick Fuentes to come on to flame Jewish people.
Oh wow. Okay.
So
Would Tim ever have him on, or has Nick ever been on?
He was on with Kanye.
Oh right. Wow.
Which was hilarious. But that whole thing was hilarious. But you know, but yeah, there's not really a cringe thing that people can't say. You know, it's like, it's just the stuff that YouTube won't let people say, and that's the stuff that we're just like, no, you can't say that. You know.
But don't you guys have like a powwow? I've only done it once. I don't really remember. But isn't there like a little bit of a pre-show powwow where you go, okay, don't say these things, don't allude to these things?
Tim, there are fewer things now, because before there were things about the vaccine that would get you booted or make YouTube drop you. Now I don't know if there are still things about the vaccine or about the about COVID that you can't say anymore. I don't think so, but we don't, like, Tim doesn't say that anymore. It's the little powwow he's like, yeah, just don't say any allusions to violence, don't threaten to, you know, to kill anyone or whatever. It's like, but other than that, you know, we try and keep it family friendly, because it's 8 p.m. and parents watch with their kids, but you know, if something slips, it's not the end of the world, you know. So that's about the long and short of it. Then, but for the last for 45 minutes before we start, we're all kind of hanging out in the studio talking about like whatever, you know, whether it be what we're going to talk about. A lot of times it's been like going over what we're going to just like what the topics are, because it's been like oddly quiet, because I feel like it's because the people that are going to be in the running for president, that like that's already decided. You know, it's very early to have both candidates.
Yes, it's a bit of a long primary season, unusually long.
Yeah, so it's like it's already baked in. So we're just and they're not doing anything. Like they're not getting together for any kind of debates or whatever. Like Biden is hiding as much as he can. Donald Trump's busy in the courts in New York or whatever. So the actual news that's coming out is not really, there's not a whole ton of stuff. So that's what the last hour that we normally do. We just talk about what is going on in the day. You know, hey, what are going to be the topics? And if there's a couple, if we have too many, we'll be like, all right, well, this is the order, and this we won't talk about, or this we will in the after show. But that's the kind of thing. So
that makes sense. Oh, Fealty sent a message. TimCast IRL. Oh, I did not pay Fealty to say this, by the way. TimCast IRL needs a pre and post Prager Chrissie live IRL. Water breaking would be metal. Haha. Yes, the last couple of shows I've done, I have threatened to break my water over people. Thank you, Fealty.
Well, I don't know. How would you you can't decide when to break the water, can you? Without like a coat hanger.
I've heard there are maybe ways. Like I've heard curb walking, like walking up and down a curb is a good way to stimulate birth. I'm sure you could Google like how to break your own water. I don't know.
I bet you there are midwives out there that have some thoughts on this, right? Yeah. The old fashioned.
Take a Krav Maga class. Yeah.
Oh man, Krav Maga.
Get back into gymnastics. Yeah. Yeah, because I started swimming again. Well, I swam a lot because I was a lifeguard and I was a Division I diver all throughout college. And I started diving at like 11. It was like a big part of my life. And but they say when you're pregnant, like that swimming is really great for you. But they don't. But they're like, don't hold your breath for long periods of time. Like, don't try to swim a whole lap lane underwater. You know how people do that because they just see if they can hold their breath for the whole time. They're like, the baby needs constant oxygen. I was like, great. I can't dive. I can't hold my breath. I can't do
No,
dares. Can't go in the
you
hot
can't
tub.
do anything. You can't.
You
You're
can't have
right
soft
now. You're
serve. You can't have soft cheese. You can't drink coffee from the moment you wake up till the moment your head hits the pillow at night.
because of cut caffeine and stuff.
Yeah, you can only have
Yeah.
200 to 300 milligrams of caffeine a day. And I'm not trying to
Which is
push
how
it. I'm
much
not
is that?
trying to. It's like 2 small cups, they say. And I've read theories and studies that you could push it to 300 milligrams, so that's like 3 small cups. But then you don't want to like give birth to like a fucking chattery ADD crazy little baby. So
Just like jittering. Looks like he's coming out while he's getting
yeah,
electrocuted.
comes out wearing a shirt that says "Don't talk to me till I've had my coffee." And it's like, where'd you even get that?
Yeah. I didn't know Amazon delivered into my uterus.
Oh my god, it's Scrotzma Goats. I don't know if this is the Scrotzma Goats or an imposter. Phil, I'd like to express my appreciation for your ratios on the tweets Tony Gonzalez's intern has been posting over the past few weeks. Keep it up.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome.
Is this a troll? Is this a compliment?
So Tony Gonzalez is running for re-election in the San Antonio area, and his opponent is the AK guy, Brendan from the YouTuber, the AK guy, and so whenever Tony posts something that I see, I just go in there and I'll jump in. I'm like, I'm here for the ratio, or I'm here to ratio you, Tony, and it's been going pretty well. But look, I mean, it's fun and stuff, but it's not like an actual election is not Twitter. So it's fun to meme on the internet, but it's not real until it's real in real life. So, bear that in mind. But we'll keep memeing him.
Have you ever thought of running for office?
I have heard that question, and every single time I swear to God, I will run from the person. I am not doing that. I am not going to go into public service. I'm not going to Washington. No way.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I've had so many corporate jobs. I know exactly how I look in a pantsuit. It's not worth it.
Not you, no. I mean, the thing is, I'm sure that like you have far more fun and far more like life satisfaction doing this kind of stuff. Being able to control where you get to be and how much you're going to work and blah, 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 compared to like working in DC where you like have to be there at a certain time when someone else tells you and stuff. Like,
it just
that's a
doesn't seem
big deal.
fun. Like DC is like, who would choose to live there? It's drab, it's dreary, everything is gray. Like,
It depends where though.
There's kind of an evil vibe over the whole town.
That's true. But like certain parts of it are nice. Like the up on the hill, there's a lot of nice areas. Like and there's a ton of awesome places to eat. But a lot of traffic, man. A lot of traffic. And it still gets to be winter. Like if I'm gonna live in a city or a place that's congested, I'm living in Southern California because at least it's nice every single day. Like you get like 5 to 10 bad days a year.
Yeah, I was always like, why do people still live here? And then you go to California, you're like, oh, it's the weather.
That's why.
That's why.
Yeah, it's totally why. It's so. I was out there in January last year. I was just out there this past February. Earlier this year. I was out there in March as well, and it is so damn awesome all the time. You're just like, oh, that's why like people put up with like the taxes that like you have to pay like
And
California tax. In some places you have to pay. Yeah, it's crazy amount of money to live out there. Crazy amounts of money. But I tell you what, man, when it's 70 degrees on January 15th, you're like, all right, let me write you another check, Gavin Newsom.
Yeah.
It's nice.
God. Okay. I saw you were tweeting a bit about this. This was a topic I wanted to get into, and it's not necessarily a new topic. All of us have been observing and commenting on the kind of decline in organized religion for
Mhm.
years now, and many folks have talked about, well, it's like all human beings kind of crave a sort of type of religion. They may not necessarily be going to church all the time, but sometimes people go, "Oh, yoga's my religion," or they go, or they end up joining the
CrossFit.
alphabet gang, or being an ally is their religion.
Yep.
Oh yes, I'm a big fan of F45 myself, but I can't really go right now because they don't. I'm not really in a good bouncing burpee stage in my life. I'm
Fair
afraid
enough.
I'll
Fair enough.
burpee the kid like right out, and
Right. You jump up, and as you come down, the kid just doesn't stop moving and just bangs
yeah,
his head
and
on
they
the
love
ground.
keeping that gym so clean, and it's like I could just see, like, I'd break my water over some of the equipment, and they'd be like, like,
I just imagine Chrissy doing a burpee, and then her kid just like bungee jumps out from the umbilical cord.
it was almost of like I was offended because one of the last times I was there, I was doing push-ups on my knees. They're like, "No, no, stop! You could fall." I was like, "Excuse me, I could fall. I'm doing push-ups on my knees." I've never felt I'm like, "This is what must like, my 600-pound life." That's how I felt. Like, "You really think I'm going to fall doing push-ups on my knees?" They're like, "Well, if you do fall, you'll land right on your stomach, and that's really bad." I guess they're afraid of, obviously, like, liability and shit,
Yeah.
but I've
Yeah.
just never felt so feeble as being accused of falling, doing a knee push-up. I was like,
That is
"I
pretty
can't."
good.
I'll
Knee,
see you guys in
knee
a month.
push-ups are
We'll
kind of
talk.
embarrassing anyways. Like just doing a knee push-up, just like, oh God.
Yeah, I'm worried. My plan is to fully snap back though. Like I'm in a very cool group of based moms on Twitter, and we're all
Mhm.
sort of public figures or the wives of public
The
figures, and we're
Simcast,
constantly
basically.
talking about yeah, it's basically Simcast for like mom chat, and sometimes it's pictures of dirty diapers. Today it was a circumcision conversation. And
Awesome.
they're all like very cool ladies. But yeah, I was just I don't know why I brought that up. No, because it's cool. It's always good to like check in, and because it's getting time to where I have to submit my decision on circumcision. Oh, that rhymes.
Mm.
So
So what are you gonna do?
it's a strange thing.
Actually,
I
it's none
mean,
of my business.
if we were having a
It's
girl,
none of my
Phil, it
business.
would be so easy because obviously we would get her
Of
circumcised.
course,
That's a
obviously. I mean,
no-brainer.
you don't want people to think she's weird.
I've gone back and forth. I would like if you had to ask me today, I would say no, we're not gonna do it.
Mhm.
But again, I am sort of more deferring to like my husband on that. I'm like, look, I don't have a penis. I don't pretend to have a penis. You know, there's it just feels to I, I'm like, all
You
right,
know, it's funny, like that the I don't
each
pretend to have a
thing.
penis thing, that just like totally went right by. And nowadays there's just so many jokes there.
Yeah.
We're just like, oh, we're both two totally normal people. So this isn't even a thing.
Oh yeah, I meant to talk about the downfall of religion, and I'm like, I'm not here. I am talking about circumcision, but
Straight to
it's been
penises.
interesting. Straight to penises. This is where is my mind today? So here we go. I'm going to bring this up.
Okay.
It's a bit concerning because you tweeted out this pretty recently. Actually, I'm going to bring up your tweet because that is a better place to start, and it just makes me a little bit anxious because I feel like I would like to see more people going to church services, but I understand why they don't. They don't really make it cool or fun, or it's not really updated, and it's kind of and a lot of people are turned off with how gay a lot of it has become. So
That's
here's a tweet here from Alex
crazy.
McGillis. Maybe religion, for all its faults, works a bit like a retaining wall to hold back the destabilizing pressure of American hyper individualism, which threatens to swell and spill over in his absence. And then it says here, unless appeal, it took decades for Americans to lose religion. It might take decades to understand the entirety of what we lost. And then you say, if this is correct, we do not have decades. There is something. I mean, when I grew up going to church, I don't know if you did, Phil.
Hmm.
But it was
Raised
just,
Catholic, first
nobody
communion.
when you're a kid like wants to go to church. You just go because it's what you have to do. It's like the doing chores
Yep.
It's like brushing your teeth before you go to bed. It's like you go to church and like, I would take the prayer slips and I would draw drawings of the female pastor jumping off the roof of the church, and I would try to pass them down and submit them. And my grandma would stop every time and just put them in her purse, and but then she saved them, which was like, oh, that's sweet, grandma.
That's even
She
better.
liked my
Oh,
drawings.
I love it. I love it. But yeah, I think that I have a fairly complex understanding of religion, or at least my take on it, I guess. I don't think religion is in my estimation, religion is a language. Okay. It's a way in which people communicate. So it is it does form community and it forms tradition. But I think of it as a way people communicate, which is why Catholics can just read the Bible and they have all that they need to know to be a Catholic, really. Like there's all kinds of, seminary and all kinds of like theocracy, or there's all kinds of doctrine and a lot of thought, and a lot of philosophers have studied Catholic ideas and stuff like that. But for the most part, Catholicism is passed from one generation to the next by families and by going to church. You don't have to read a whole lot of stuff to know how to be a Catholic, at least in general. And those structures that traditions that Catholicism or any religion provide, they do more than just limit people, right? Like that's one of the things that the notion coming from Gen X, which I'm a member of Generation X, we kind of have, is we all looked at religion as kind of a constricting thing, and we didn't give enough credibility to the fact that without rules you can't actually be creative, right? Like you can't think outside the box if there's no box. So you can't actually be creative without having rules, and the rules are there to give you a frame of reference. They're not there to limit you. They're not there to tell you you're not allowed to do this and do that and be this and be that. They're there to give you a frame of reference on how is best to live a life, not specifically for you. It's not personal, but how it's best for people to live. There's plenty of things that it's okay for you to do, but it's not okay for everyone to do. Right. And thank God not everybody wants to do the same thing.
Double dipping, for example.
Yes, exactly. Perfect. It's totally fine.
No one sees you.
Yes. Yeah.
You can get away with it.
That's right. Or if you're by yourself, you can double dip. Or if you're with your significant other, you can double dip. Those kind of things are acceptable, but don't do it at the party.
Right. If
Or
it's
don't
the
get
other end
caught.
of the mozzarella stick and you know what I mean? Like you
can
careful.
even spin it around, but that one you also kind of want to keep quiet because someone else might be like, ew, if they're a little too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a situation where like societies need rules on how they work because of the fact that we're a democratic republic and we are a liberal society. We can make room for people that don't want to live the way that other people live, but we should, as a society, encourage people to live in traditional ways because those traditions exist for a reason. And we're seeing that without those traditions, society starts to break down. And I think the most clear thing is the fact that you see so much depression and mental illness in young people. Now, whatever the reasons are, I think that it does have something to do with social media, and particularly with social media in your pocket that vibrates, right? Like it's literally like a person tapping you on the shoulder. So there's no putting it down, especially like for me and you and other people that are public figures. It's one thing. For, a 14, 15, 16-year-old kid, like they're not going to have the ability to just say, oh, it vibrated, I'll leave it alone. Who's that wants to talk to me? I mean, people that have almost no validation, that have never experienced validation by other people, like with the first time they start feeling it from their social group, they're not gonna have the ability to manage that. Kids can't do that. You can't. You're ridiculous for expecting kids to be able to do that. Expecting a kid to be able to manage that is like expecting your dog to be able to write a sentence with a pen. Like, it's just not going to happen. They're just not equipped for it.
It's like expecting a fat person to walk past a table of free samples at Costco.
You know, you just can't. You can't. It's expecting me to not eat any ice cream. That ain't happening. You can't. You just ain't gonna happen. Like it's like expecting you to just sit there if your water breaks. That's not happening. Like, you're getting up. You're gonna do things. You're gonna be moving. This podcast is over.
This interview, I would not rush you still, because I was like, no, I probably have about an hour. I'll just get a towel. I'll come back.
It'll be warm in a sec, or it's warm. It's not cold, you know. So
I'll wait till I feel a foot coming out. Yeah.
But yeah, like kids can't fight that. Like, you can't expect kids to be able to do
They're
that.
still learning what their sources of validation are going to be. They're still being set
100%.
up
100%
for the rest of their lives.
And so what religion does is it's an insulator on all those kind of things. What the traditions that come from religion, the fact that that piece that was written in the Atlantic, that wasn't written by like some far right winger, and it wasn't in, like, it's not written on Breitbart. It's in the Atlantic, which, again, I know there are people that are going to be critical of the sources, but you have to have reasonable ideas coming to people from a place where they will accept it. And you're not going to have people that are like Democrats that you want to convince that should vote for some Republicans now because the Democrats have lost your mind. You're not going to get those Democrats to believe that what you're saying is right if you're sending them Fox News pieces, because Fox News has been demonized for 20 years. You have to send them stuff that comes from somewhere they trust. I mean, look, if someone sends me an MSNBC article and they say, "See, Phil, this is the proof," I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever, Mr. MSNBC guy, I'm just not going to buy it. So that piece there that people in the Atlantic, it's worth your time to read, because I think that it really hits the nail on the head when it comes to a lot of the functions that religion performs. So whether or not you believe in, for instance, when it comes to Christians, they believe that Christ is the Son of God, right? They believe that he's the Savior. They believe that he died, that he died 3 days later. He rose from the dead and he conquered death. So that way other people, so that way human beings don't have to pay for their sins, so that way they can be forgiven. That's like the religious belief. If you don't believe that, it doesn't mean that there aren't a whole, slew of other positive things that stem from being a Christian or living like a Christian, or just living in a Christian community as a Christian with your family as a Christian. And again, I understand that there's always going to be people that are going to try to use religion to force people to do things that you don't want and stuff. But the structure that religion offers is not a net bad. And I think that my generation and probably millennials didn't give religion the fair shake that it deserves.
Yeah. Interesting. And now we have the question of now many churches will be closing down, and people are talking about, well, what's going to happen to this real estate, which seems kind of like an icky thing to paw after. This is from religionnews.com. Thousands of churches will likely close down. What happens to the real estate? A new book called Gone for Good looks at the ways that churches could be reused for the public good in the future. Experts are predicting that 100.
Good.
Oh wait, sorry. What were you saying?
Well, there's this place in Pittsburgh called Mr. Small's Theater that used to be a church, and it's a concert venue. We've played shows there. It's pretty sick.
Wow. I was just in a Rainmore and Flanagan today that used to be a bowling alley. I was like, why couldn't they have kept them both?
Right. But I guess it's hard to set up rooms on the lanes, maybe.
Yeah. It just seems kind of dark. The idea, like, to close down and remove a place of worship, like, now that's not even an option. it doesn't make me feel good. And I think like religion must like much like the nuclear family, it's like it just provides a kind of safety net for people to go when they're having a hard time. And when
Yeah,
those things are broken down, well, what do we have? It just seems like the government wants to be your new daddy, your new
yeah,
family, your new religion. And then
yeah, and
if it results in you joining the alphabet cult, well, then that's probably going to be ultimately big pharma. Then is going to be your new religion, your new family.
yeah. When it comes to like the LGBTQ stuff, there's a lot of religion is in there. When you hear people saying things like trans people are sacred, um, that is without question a religious statement. The way that trans people talk, or the way that they talk about trans people having their gender is akin to having a spirit, um and you're just making your body match with your gender, which is like making your body match with the spirit that you have, and that extends into things like the whole furry stuff and all like polyamorous and all of the offshoots of that, of the gender stuff. It's all about, oh, this is what I feel like inside, and so I want my body to align with that. But the way you feel is going to change. So we shouldn't be, at the very least, at the very least, we shouldn't allow people that are under 18, definitely probably under 25. We shouldn't allow those people to transition. The reason I say 25 is because insurance agencies have figured out that about 25, which happens to be when your cerebral cortex is finished actually growing, at about 25 is when it's fairly safe to rent cars to people, because under 25 you make dumb decisions. And it's not trying to be personal or whatever. Your brain is not finished developing, so you should not be allowed to modify your body in a way like double mastectomies, or cutting off your penis and having a whatever they call the fake vagina, neo vagina installed the term installed.
Having a windsock, yeah, installed. And it's like it's a piss poor replacement for religion, because it's ultimately extremely selfish and
Yep.
self-satisfying. And even people in these trans groups, they're like, "Oh, we're allies, we're support." It's like, no, you're not really supporting each other. It's like it's feigned support just so you can justify your own decisions. It's like
Yeah, and
that's why when someone decides to detransition, they get basically ostracized from the
yeah.
community. They become outcasts.
And another function that the LGBT ideology provides now, which is there was kind of an allegory for it in Maoist China. So during the Cultural Revolution, Mao came up with the concept of red personalities and black personalities. Red personalities were red identities and black identities. And if your father was a capitalist or a business owner, you had a black identity. If your father was an anti-communist, you had a black identity, et cetera. And what they would do is, if you would do revolutionary things, you could get a red identity. You could become a communist, and that would absolve you of the sins of your father, because you would no longer have your black identity. You would have the red identity of a member of the Communist Party. And that's what's going on nowadays with the LGBT whatever ideology or whatever. If you are cis, if you are heteronormative, if your parents are business owners, because those kind of things actually do kind of feed into this. There's a lot of socialist ideology that's mixed in with it. But you can have, if you're a white cis hetero male, you can say, well, I'm bi, or I'm poly, or I'm whatever. Say that you're any one of the low intensity, what essentially boiled down to the low intensity LGBT identities, right? If you're like, I'm bi, and you put on some glitter mascara every once in a while, then you get,
yeah,
and you paint your nails, that'll give you enough to like get out of the, to not get the eye of Sauron looking at you like you're, the bad guy. And so there's a lot of people that are doing that. They'll adopt an LGBT identity because it gets them out of having the bad identities. Just like in Maoist China, you could adopt a red identity to get away from having a black identity, And there's a lot of similarities to Maoist China with the LGBT kind of groups nowadays.
Wow. And I thought, in terms of like gambling speak, don't you want to be in the black instead of being in the red?
You do, but the commies don't like money, so that's part of why they're always in the red, or that why the red is bad, because they're always in the red. That's why they don't like money, because they never get into the black.
True. Gosh, it just seems kind of kind of hopeless. Like how do you turn around? How do you get a whole new generation of people to start wanting to go to church again, because so much has been so damaged. Even like more hardcore Catholics have been turned off by the new Pope,
Yep.
just by how much has been allowed in the church.
So there are some positive things. The like Hispanic people are surprisingly resilient to that kind of stuff, to the LGBT stuff. And that comes from the fact that they still have a very, very strong Spanish tradition, and whether it be, you know, whatever kind, it's like Hispanic people, they have a very significant attachment to their tradition, to traditions, and that acts as an insulator from these kind of, you know, foreign ideologies like the LGBT thing. And that is what it's going to take. So the fact that people don't have a religion or have shared community, that's why the LGBT stuff is so attractive and is being so successful. But the more people push back on it, the more people say, look, no, you know, we're not going to let trans women or trans women, men, into women's sports, and look, this is bad, and we're not going to allow this and allow that. And also, I think society needs to stop. Like, we need to stop celebrating June as like Gay Pride Month. Like, all of the Pride stuff needs to end. If the government has any legitimate lifestyle that it's going to promote, it should be the lifestyle that promotes more people and more like having more families. And there's nothing wrong with having an LGBT lifestyle, like living. I'm fine with it. I'm like a libertarian guy when it comes to that. But the government shouldn't be promoting it. The government shouldn't be like, we celebrate this and we need to make sure that this gets focused and blah, blah, blah. No, you should be doing things to focus on families.
What James Lindsay said yesterday, he's like, visibility is not the problem. It's not that they need to become more visible. And he's unintentionally hilarious, James Lindsay. He's like, people seeing more of them is not helping.
No, I mean, well, to be fair, actually, having people see more of them turns more people off. So the visibility is actually something that's working against them, because it really does, like
visibility day.
Yeah, right. It's like the back in the closet day. But it's true. Days. Like it shouldn't be something that the government shouldn't be. It's beyond just like gay pride or just pride. It's like all year long, there's all these different days, because the whole LGBT thing, like you said yourself just a little while ago, it's all based on narcissism. It's literally worshiping their own bodies, totally focused on sexuality, their own sexuality. So it's as you know, it's as navel gazing and self-centered and self-absorbed an ideology as you could possibly imagine. It's people thinking about the thing that people think about all the time, which is sex, and indulging in it constantly. That thought, whatever, it's always sexuality and sex, and it's not healthy to be constantly focused on yourself like that. It's pure narcissism.
Exactly. Even as a straight person, like anyone who's had a phase when they were really into it, whether they were in like, you know, what do they call it, like SA or like Sexaholics Anonymous or something like that. Whether you're in a formal group like that or not, anyone who has had a phase where they were just obsessed with it knows, like, you don't get very much else done. You're not focused on your career. You're not focused on your friends or family. It's like, it's just like an addiction. I like this comment from FFS. Church survived almost a century of hardcore communism and persecution during the 20th century in Russia. God's church will always survive. I like that. I like a little white pill comment.
There you go. I certainly don't have an aversion to religion. I didn't grow up and have a negative experience with religion. So I kind of was like, I don't think this is for me anymore when I was like a teenager, but I definitely don't have hostility towards religion. I do have hostility towards anyone that tells me what I'm supposed to do or tell me what like. I'm very much like, yeah, as soon as you said I have to, I don't want to. But otherwise, like, I welcome the idea of having, a society that's a little more interested in being what amounts to holy or good Christians, or however you want to articulate it.
For sure. From Talk with Sally, check your DMs, question relevant to the conversation. Guys, you might as well just put it, whatever question you have, in the super chat. That way I don't have to go back and forth all the time. Okay, and she sent me something about eunuchs. Eunuchs would usually be servants or slaves who had been castrated to make them less threatening servants of a royal court where physical access to the ruler could wield great influence. Is the government trying to make more loyal soldiers through voluntary castration? Ooh, I think it promotes I think it's just not good for the already terrible birth rate in many of the countries currently.
Yeah, I don't think that there's, as much as like people love to go ahead and say, oh, are they doing this or is the government doing that? Very, very few things are actually like thought out and intentional. Most of the things that you see that are problems come from the government are just because of normal big bureaucracies create resistance and frictions and stuff like that. There are definitely things that the intelligence community does and stuff like that. So I'm not saying there are no conspiracies at all that happen, but most of the things that people are like, well, that's weird. It's like, well, yeah, but it's explainable because of the bureaucracy doing this, and this is the way that this is the process which makes these things happen, and the frictions that you notice tend to be natural.
And it thrives because it benefits big pharma so much. It's just anything that can be made money off of. I think that's number one.
Whether it be, and it's not just big pharma, obviously, the Defense Department, any kind of, the military industrial complex, and now Google and Facebook and stuff, they've become part of the military industrial complex, and in that they are part of the security apparatus, because all the federal government does is subpoena whatever information that they want, and Google or Facebook just sends it on over. So the government doesn't have to monitor all your stuff. Google does it for them, and then when they want to turn the Eye of Sauron on you, they just say, "Hey, Google, give us all the stuff on this guy," and Google already has it. So,
ugh, that's why I use the Brave browser.
Good idea.
Who knows? That's probably getting collected.
I mean, look, if the government wants you, they already have you. All they have to do is turn the Eye of Sauron on you. All they have to do is start looking. They've already got everybody. There's no, unless you've been like actively avoiding creating a digital footprint, and you've been doing it for 15 years or longer, they've already got you. So too late.
Well, that's not comforting at all, Phil.
No, not really. Not really. I mean, look, they found Osama bin Laden. He was watching videotapes in Islamabad, Afghanistan, or Pakistan,
He was watching TikToks. Bill's more Michael Malice Luke than he is Timmy, but this is very based and has learned a ton. Seeing conspiracy theories become a reality will do that to you. I think that's a compliment.
I think so. Cheers, bud.
Cheers, my friend. Interesting. Yeah, a lot of good comments from the chat today. Good questions indeed. Phil, what is coming up for you? What can people look forward to other than your tour, which you will be announcing soon with band to be named? Big package coming.
Yeah. So I will be doing TimCast stuff this week, and next week, and for the next few months until the tour starts. I don't have any significant plans to go anywhere, but like I said, there'll be a video release fairly soon. It's already done. We're doing color correction and stuff now, but it's just a matter of waiting to release stuff. But it'll be before you know it, and then you're gonna have a whole bunch of stuff to go ahead and listen to. I promise.
Ooh, and one more super chat from Matthew Hammond. What has happened to music in the U.S.? Has the internet caused homogeneity in the homogeny in the U.S., or have people that would have formed bands done something else?
I think the way people make music has had a significant effect. So I was talking to our manager yesterday um about how long it's taking to actually, or it has taken to get the actual record done, and he was mentioning how, like, in the hip hop world, and in the well, in the hip hop world at least, that it doesn't take long to produce stuff. Like they'll put something together, and then they'll have it done in a day or two or whatever. And part of the reason why that happens is, like, I was like, well, yeah, well, Josh hit me up yesterday. Josh is our producer, and I was like, he's doing the mix, and he just wanted to go ahead and shape the guitars a little bit, and, like, that means EQ the guitars to get them to fit a certain way, and that stuff just doesn't happen in hip hop, right? Like, they pick the sample that they want, and for the most part, they're like, all right, that sample sounds good. Whereas we're being a band that actually records live instruments, like, how the mic is put near the drum matters how the drum's going to sound. And that's the kind of thing that we're thinking about. Like, we're worried about the snare, how it sounds on the top of the snare and the bottom of the snare, because we put a mic on both of them and mix those two together to get the snare sound. And same thing with all the cymbals. Like, you EQ all the cymbals and you EQ each mic in the room. So it's like, for a band that does band stuff, it takes a lot longer to do it because the mix is far more in depth and detail. Whereas, as far as I know, most of your hip hop artists and your electronic artists, they'll grab a sample or get a kick or a sound they like, and they might shape it a little bit, but it's not nearly as in depth. They can throw together a beat, or most people that throw together beats and stuff, they'll throw together a beat in 5 minutes and be like, yeah, that's sick. And then they just repeat it, and that's it. It never changes. They don't EQ it. They don't mix. All the mix is just, putting the vocals into it and making sure they can kind of hear the stuff. It's not nearly the same kind of in-depth process that mixing actual real instruments are. So that kind of has something to do with it, I think. The fact that there's a lot more detail put into, like, actual live music or music that's performed with real instruments, as opposed to stuff that's performed electronically. And so you get a lot of homogeneity, like you said, because everyone's kind of doing the same things, I think. Maybe that's BS.
I agree. I used to play the alto saxophone throughout high school. Just things have really changed since then.
That's a real instrument, though.
For it's a real instrument. Yeah, and guess what? They didn't just hand you a saxophone. You had to play the clarinet for like a year or two before to prove. It's like you had to have sex with the ugly girl before you could have a shot at her hot sister. It's like you had to be really dedicated.
Yeah, you had to prove that you meant it.
So, yeah, I understand. I too have been in the music biz. Interesting. Phil, you're just an absolute delight to talk to. Do work on your Carlin accent, because I think that could be possibly.
I think that I'm gonna try
for you.
I think you got a good idea. I'll work it out.
Tell the lovely people of the internet where they can find you, and any other parting final thoughts.
I am Phil That Remains on Twix. I'm Phil That Remains Official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains. You can follow us on Apple Music, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, YouTube, the internet. And don't forget, the left lane is for crying.
Thank you, Phil. Thanks everybody in the chat for your comments and questions. And of course, reminder, join the baby pool. Venmo $10 to Gino Bisconti with date, weight, and time, and you could win half my baby. Thanks everybody for watching. Everyone follow Phil, and we'll see you next